Hello, everybody, and welcome back into the Built Different podcast. As always, I'll be your host today, Dr. Zach Clinton, and we're here in a boxing ring. I mean, we got punching bags all around us, and today we talked a lot about fighting for religious freedom, fighting for our rights, fighting for our bodies, fighting for our health. Today, we're going to talk about fighting for our brain health, and there is no better person in the world to have that conversation with than a dear friend, somebody that I look up to. He's been a role model. He's been somebody that has invested in my life personally, but also just from afar. I just look up to this man in so many ways, Dr. Daniel Amen. You're very familiar with the name. I know you probably are. But if you're not, this is the leading, I would say this, neuroscientist, brain health expert, psychiatrist in the world, somebody that God is continuing to use in mighty ways. And we're going to talk about a whole 4 program today and what that looks like, some of the challenges that are facing society and culture that are facing brain health, but also some of the solutions to get people back to the healthiest place that they could be. Dr. Daniel Amen, my friend, thank you for joining me.
I'm so proud of you, Zach.
Thank
I
you,
just watch you grow and make a difference in the lives of so many people. And I think it's that one clip we did that ended up with like 50 million views is my most viral clip. That don't do everything for your children.
That's right. Don't do everything for your children. We'll talk a little bit about that today, Doc, but what I want to touch on just up front is you have so many different roles, so many different responsibilities. I know that you're all over the place. Now you're making an impact just in culture and society at large, not just the individual life, but over mass population groups. And so with what God has opened doors for you, even here recently, I'm just interested, what excites you the most since the last time we sat down together? What have you been doing that you feel like, man, God is using to have the greatest impact?
So Pastor Paula White came to see me because your dad referred her to me.
Yes.
And she got so much better that she's like, you know, I may be in the White House and I want to take your work to every American. And I'm like, and she asked me this one question that no one had ever asked me before. She goes, how big can you think? And I'm like, I can think big. How about the decade of brain health?
Right.
1990s, George Bush 1 declared the 1990s the decade of the brain, and that brought more money for neuroscience and more focus to the brain, and that was a really great thing. Wow. But ultimately, it's the health of your brain that determines how happy you are, how connected you are, how much money you make, how long you live. It's really the quality of your life goes to the direct physical health of your brain. And one of the programs I'm really excited about is called the Amen Whole 4. My first week of medical school, I went to medical school at Oral Roberts University.
Yes.
And Sid Garrett was our dean. He comes into the room and he draws 4 big circles on the board. He goes, never think of your patients as their diagnosis. Always think of them in these 4 circles. And the first one is biological. And we are in a brain-body biological crisis in this country, with Alzheimer's expected to triple in the next 30 years. 50% of the population is diabetic or pre-diabetic.
Wow.
75% of us are overweight or obese. And I published 3 brain imaging studies on 33,000 people that showed as your weight goes up, the actual physical size and function of your brain goes down, which should scare the fat off anyone. If you think, when I figured that out, I lost 20 pounds.
Right.
Because I'm like, no, I'm not being chubby, if that is in fact bad for my brain.
Wow.
So we're in this biological crisis, but we're also in a psychological crisis. You know, the second circle Dr. Garrett drew, he said, you have to think of your patients' minds, how they think, their development, and we're in a psychiatric crisis, right? A mental health crisis that is so scary, with 25% of the adult population on psychiatric drugs, epidemics of anxiety, depression, ADHD, autism, addiction, before the pandemic.
Right.
And then everything got dramatically worse not only the fear and the bad policy, but the virus itself activates your emotional brain and makes you more at risk for anxiety and depression. So biological crisis, psychological crisis. And the third circle he drew was the social circle. It's like, how's their job? How's their marriage? What's going on in their life? And we are lonelier and more isolated than ever before. And the Surgeon General put out a report recently that said if you're lonely, and 58% of Americans report being significantly lonely, it has the same health effect of smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So biological, psychological, social, spiritual. And 58% of young people lack a sense of meaning and purpose. Now, not you. And you know how that just like gets you up in the morning, that I'm going to make a difference and I'm going to learn something new, that you're engaged in your life. But if 58% of young people are not engaged in their life, but their nose is in their phone, that is only driving anxiety and depression further. So we have this whole four crisis. But here's the headline. Here's the thing I'm most excited about. I believe the answer to these epidemics is not to see them as separate disorders, but as different expressions of the same unhealthy lifestyle and toxic exposures that have exactly the same cure. And that's what I call our Amen Whole 4 solution, where through faith-based organizations, because most psychiatrists, they're not touching the spiritual
not at all.
circle. And they were taught, oh, that's sort of a crutch. Why would I talk about your belief in God or why you're on the planet?
That's right.
But if you don't believe in God, it triples your risk of depression. And it makes sense, right? If you just think we're here by random chance out of an explosion that happened billions of years ago, that there's really no meaning, purpose to my life, well, that's depressing.
That's depressing.
And there is not one thing in my education as a doctor, as a neuroscientist, that makes me not believe in God, because the brain is so beautifully and wonderfully made. And I don't believe our relationship over the years is by random chance.
That's right.
And 15 years ago, I went to my church in Southern California, and I just finished writing Change Your Brain, Change Your Body, which is my second book on the connection between physical health and mental health. And I was so happy that morning until I got to church, and I walked by hundreds of donuts for sale for charity. And I felt like someone just slugged me in the face. I'm going to church to get my soul fed. These people are trying to kill me, because there's not one healthy thing about donuts. And right around the donuts was bacon and sausage cooking on the grill in the grease. And I'm like, felt like I got hit again. And then I went, right before I went into the sanctuary, it's this monster big church in Newport Beach where I live, and saw them cooking hundreds of hot dogs. And there's not one healthy thing about a hot dog.
Not at all.
And then as I sat down, the minister started talking about the ice cream festival they had the night before. And when Tana, my wife, found me in church, because she dropped Chloe, our daughter, off at Children's Church, typing on my phone. And she hates that, because she thinks of the phone as the other woman. And so I showed her what I was typing. Go to church, get donuts, bacon, sausage, hot dogs, ice cream. They have no idea they're sending people to heaven early. Save them, then kill them. I'm like, this is not the plan. And so I prayed God would use me to change the culture of food at church. And while I'm praying this, I'm like, that's the dumbest prayer you've ever prayed. How is that ever going to happen? You're not connected to church in that way. And I'm like, it's my prayer. God, deal with it.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, Pastor Rick Warren from Saddleback Church called me. And I'd never met Pastor Warren.
Wow.
He'd seen me on TV. He read my book, Healing ADD. And he said, I'm fat. My church is fat. Will you help me? And together we created the Daniel Plan, a program to get the world healthy through churches.
Yes.
And thousands of churches did our program, and I saw the power. But Pastor Warren only saw that for a season.
Right.
It's like, oh, let's lose 50 pounds. And I'm like, no. This is a program.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle.
You keep doing.
Yes.
Because health is your daily decisions.
That's right.
And ultimately, so what I'm doing with the White House, the decade of brain health, and creating a national brain health revolution, all based on one question. Because I've been doing this a long time, and I'm always thinking, how can I make it simple, easy to do? One question. Is whatever I'm doing right now good for my brain or bad for it? And does it make the world better? There's so much in that question. But ultimately, is what I had for lunch good for my brain or bad for it?
That's right.
Just staying up late, scrolling on your phone, is that good for your brain or bad for it? Bad for it.
Yeah.
Saying something rude to my wife, good for my brain or bad for way too much stress. Is going for a walk, that's good for my brain. And if I can just make decisions and answer that question with information and love, love of myself, love of my family, love of the reason God put me on earth, I just make better decisions. And that's the idea behind the whole four. And we have 77 pilot sites starting this month. And I'm so excited because I think this is the reason God put me on earth.
Amen. Amen. It's an incredible mission. It's an incredible vision. It's an incredible purpose. And Dr. Amen, God is clearly continuing to use you with this Amen Whole 4 plan. I can't wait to unpack it a little bit deeper, but I want to get to the solutions with you. Like you said, there's so many problems in these 4 different buckets, but the biological solutions, like you said, when that massive majority of the population here in the West, in the United States, in North America, are obese or overweight, it's like there are some things that we can be doing every day, some decisions that we can be making, whether it's nutritional, whether it's being physical fit, whether it's movement, whatever it is. What would you say, I'm just thinking of somebody out there today that's saying, I want a healthier brain, I want a healthier life, I want a healthier body. What are some first steps for somebody that maybe hasn't invested in that level of health before?
So it's that one question. It's just such a simple question. Is what am I doing? Is it good for my brain or bad for it? And quite frankly, most 7-year-olds would get a 90% on the test. And I went to my daughter's 2nd grade class, so 7 years old, and I wrote 20 things on the board. I go, separate these for me. Good for your brain or bad for it? Gratitude, good for your brain. Playing football, bad for your brain. Smoking cigarettes, bad for your brain. Drinking alcohol, bad for your brain. Marijuana, they were not ambivalent like society is. Now, bad for your brain. Talking back to your redheaded mother, bad for your brain. The only one they missed was orange juice, which they put in the good category because it's a marketing thing. But it's in the bad category because whenever you unwrap fruit juice, fructose, from its fiber source, it actually turns toxic in your body. So bad for your brain. And you just have to start knowing. And I recommend you play the game I played with Chloe when she was little. We called it Chloe's game. Is this good for your brain or bad for it? And so if I said avocado, she'd go 2 thumbs up, God's butter. If I said blueberry, she'd put her little hands on her hips and go, are they organic? Because non-organic berries hold more pesticides than almost any other fruit. I'm like, of course they're organic. She goes, good for your brain, God's candy. And we just need to teach kids to love and care for their brain. What's good
Yep.
and what's not good. And so many people go, but everything in moderation.
Mm.
Absolutely not. That's the gateway thought
Yes.
to cheat. As soon as you go everything in moderation, you're going for the ice cream, you're going for the brownie, you're going for the cookie, you're going for something that's going to increase your risk of diabetes and obesity.
Yeah. You know, I'm even just thinking about that question. Like you said, it's so simple, but it's so profound and it's so powerful. Is this good for my brain or is this bad for my brain? When it comes to food, Dr. Amen, I know this just with fast food, with sugar and different things like this, it has an impact on the brain where it's almost like impulsive, where it just lures us back in. For some people, it's like magnetic. It's like an addiction, quite literally. How do we begin, right? I know we answered that question, but why, I guess, is it so hard for us to get out of that looping cycle where we get so fixated on this? Because it's like, I know the answer, doc. Like, I know that's not good for me, but why do I keep going back to it? What would you say to that person?
It's about love. See, and there are all these wonderful little questions with the Amen Whole 4.
Absolutely.
And the question for food is, do I love food that loves me back? Because you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
You know, I love French fries.
Yeah.
I love ice cream.
Yeah.
I love brownies. They hate me.
That's right.
And I don't know if you've ever been in a bad relationship. I have.
I have too.
And I'm not doing it anymore.
Nope.
I married my best friend.
That's right.
And I'm for certain not doing it with food.
Yes.
And so I might look at the ice cream and go, I love you now, but I'm not going to love you later.
Yes.
I love you, but you hate me.
Yeah.
And so making that daily decision, and we're all creatures of habit.
We are.
And so, and I have a sweet tooth. My grandfather was a candy maker, and I'm named after him. And he was my best friend when I was growing up. But no, he died early.
Yeah.
He left me early because he made bad decisions around sugar. And so, but I make brain healthy hot chocolate every night, which is raw cacao, unsweetened almond milk, and a little bit of stevia.
Wow.
Put it in a blender. It's like 50 calories.
Yeah.
So it's calorie smart and tastes great. I love it. It loves me back. And we're creatures of habit. If you can just find 20 things you love that love you back, and it needs to be calorie smart.
Yes.
Right? A lot of people go, oh, calories don't count. It's like, dude, you failed chemistry. Calories absolutely count, but the quality of your calories actually matter more. I mean, you'll lose weight on an 800-calorie Twinkie diet, but you also have cancer and be incredibly sick.
Exactly. Do you love food that loves you back? That's the biological component here. The psychological, Doc, I'm just thinking about, even your book, Change Your Brain, Change Your Pain. I've sat down with people that have had chronic pain in the past, physically. And a lot of times they develop this negative expectation where they wake up every single morning and it's like, I just know what to expect. I'm going to feel this way. They develop this pessimism, kind of this doom loop where it's just like this pit of despair, this rumination, pathological obsession with their pain. And it's difficult for them to actually understand. I was just sitting down with Russell Johnson. He said that victory has a vocabulary. It's the idea that, man, we need to be thinking, right, as 2 Corinthians 10:5, Philippians 4:8, having that expectation, clinging to hope, changing our thought processes so that way, potentially, we can develop these different mental ruts for the good just as we can for the bad, and neuroplasticity can begin to kick in. So I'm interested for you, just what are some of the healthiest tips and tactics you might give somebody psychologically to develop the healthiest brain and body that they could have moving forward?
So the first thing, and we've talked about this before, it's killing the ants, the automatic negative thoughts that steal your happiness. They perpetuate the doom loop. And so another question, is it true? Whenever you feel sad, mad, nervous, or out of control, write down what you're thinking. And it's like, is it true? And the Amen Whole 4 is really based on Romans 12:1 and 2, that getting healthy is worship, and be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And all Christians know that verse, but they don't know the second half of that verse, which is then you can test to see if it fits God's good, pleasing, and perfect will. Does this thought fit God's good, perfect, and pleasing will? And most of the bad thoughts absolutely don't. And I want to be in the center of God's will, which means I've got to transform my mind and think on whatever is true, right, lovely, worthy of praise. Philippians 4:8. Let your mind dwell on these things. So don't believe every stupid thing you think.
Exactly.
It's absolutely true. But one of the fun ones that I don't know if you and I have talked about before is the rule of 12. Have we talked about the rule of 12?
No, but I saw you posted about it, I think, just recently, so I would love for you to unpack it.
Oh, I love the rule of 12. It's based on a concept of psychological flexibility, is associated with psychological health. And so many people, one thing goes wrong and they like lose their minds. And I took Tana to Paris for 2 weeks for her 50th birthday, so 7 years ago. And I just noticed sometimes we'd go on vacation, something bad would happen and it would like sort of mess up the day. And I'm like, I noticed that. So I told Tana, I said, why don't we promise ourselves? We're going for 2 weeks, 12 things are gonna go wrong. Let's just promise ourselves we're not gonna be upset until the 13th thing goes wrong. And if the 13th thing goes wrong, then we can scream and yell and act like 4-year-old children. And 3 things went wrong, and nobody was upset the whole time. And I came home and I posted on it. I got like 10 million responses. And I teach all of my patients the rule of 12. It's like, you are competent. You are a problem solver. You have solved so many problems in your life. Stop letting the little things steal. That's the thief, right? That comes to steal and kill and destroy. And I want you to be flexible. And my patients just like get it immediately. It's like, oh, I don't have to be upset about that. I am flexible. So identify with the flexibility.
Absolutely, and I like what you said, the rule of 12, where you're allowing space for, these things to potentially go wrong and not making them over dramatic. But at the same time, I know we've talked a lot about just this act of gratitude. You always talk about going to sleep at night and going on a treasure hunt. What went well today? And looking for the things that went right. That way we're not just waiting for the things that went wrong. Gratitude really, really matters. I know that, Doc. Talk to us now about the social aspects of life. And this is where something you and I have never talked about. But I know loneliness is the silent epidemic, and it's the undiagnosed diseases that are always the most dangerous and deadly. Like you mentioned, the stats about 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness is quite literally killing people. But for our next generation, because of this device right here, and parents, we talked about this a little bit, are putting it in child's hands. I've seen 2- and 3-year-olds that are able to literally swipe no on phone calls, open up YouTube, click on whatever show they want. 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, right? It's fascinating to me.
Younger than that.
Younger than that.
My 9-month-old grandson.
Unbelievable.
His parents, and this was before we knew the toxicity that he figured out, and then was just fascinated with it every time I saw him. Pop phone. I'm like, no, pop phone.
Right.
Like, no.
Right.
It became pop phone, no.
Yes.
And, and I'm smart enough not to give in.
Yes.
But it is clearly addictive. And the younger kids get phones, the higher risk of suicide they have in their 20s. In fact, if a child got a phone at 5, they had a 50% risk, 50% risk of having suicidal thoughts in their 20s. Not one thing about that is okay.
Not one thing.
And we need to be cautious. But the question with the social circle, do you notice what you like about other people more than what you don't like? Because ultimately we're training
good.
other people by what we pay attention to. And I don't know if we've ever talked about it. I collect penguins, and I have way more than is rational for anyone. But it was almost 40 years ago. I took my son, I adopted my oldest. He was hard for me, and my supervisor, I'm in training at the time, says you have to spend more time with him, which was sort of the last thing I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I took him to a place called Sea Life Park, which is in Hawaii, where we were living at the time, and they had like great sea animal shows, like a whale show and a dolphin and a sea lion show. And at the end of the day, he grabs my shirt and he goes, "I want to see Fat Freddy." I'm like, "Who's Fat Freddy?" He's like, "The penguin, Dad, don't you know anything?" And so we went. There was one more show at the end of the day, and this little humble, chubby penguin comes onto the stage, bows, and then goes and climbs the ladder to a high dive and goes to the end of the board and bounces and then jumps in the water. And I'm like, whoa. And then he gets out of the water, he bowls with his toes, counts with his flipper, jumps through a hoop of fire. And I got my arm around my son thinking I'm a good dad, and just blown away. And then the trainer asked Freddie to go get something, and Freddie went and got it, and he brought it right back. And in my mind, time stood still, because in my mind, I'm like, I asked this kid to get something for me, and he wants to have a discussion for like 20 minutes. And I knew my son was smarter than the penguin. And so, you know, I'm a child psychiatry fellow at the time. I don't know anything. And so I go up to the trainer. I said, "How'd you get Freddie to do all these really cool things?" And she looked at my son, and then she looked at me, and she said, "Unlike parents, whenever Freddie does anything like what I want him to do, I notice him. I give him a hug, and I give him a fish." And the light went on in my head that even though my son didn't like raw fish, my daughter does. That whenever he did what I wanted him to do, I didn't pay any attention to him because I was like my own dad. I was busy. But when he didn't do what I wanted him to do, I gave him a lot of attention because I didn't want to raise bad kids. So I was inadvertently reinforcing his bad behavior. So I collect penguins to just remind me, notice what you like more than what you don't like. And that principle works so well in relationships. But that's not what's being modeled on social media. It's not being what's modeled in the news. It's not being what's modeled on television. You just see, because they're trying to create drama, they model ineffective behavior that then the population models. Makes sense?
Makes absolute
And
sense.
so if you notice, because if Tana, because you know my wife Tana, if we're fighting, clearly I could go to what I don't like. And it's so ineffective. Or I just go to what I do like about her. And that is so powerful and can shift a negative moment to a loving moment. And if that's your pattern, notice what you like more than what you don't, your relationships change in such a positive way. And you also are less lonely. Because what does someone else really want from you? They want you to notice them.
That's right.
And if it's not about you or your politics, but you're curious about them, people want that. That's how you connect.
It's it, taking a genuine interest in other people, noticing what you like about them rather than what you don't.
Yeah. And then active listening. You know, what they teach us as therapists to do, but it's clearly not modeled on TV or on social media.
No.
It's always talking over people, interrupting people, and I'm like, that's not going to get you connected.
So powerful. We need people more than ever. There's power in partnership. There's comfort in companionship. And I want to kind of close this way, Doc, because I know you got to get to a panel discussion here in a moment, but also what I want to close on is the spiritual component and how potentially this Aim in Whole 4 can really continue to impact and influence the Big C church at large. Because we know this, that 90% of the human population believe that there is a God. But yet less than 70%, I would say maybe upward of 70% of therapists are not trained in incorporating spirituality within therapy and more. And so there's a massive gap here between those that are spiritually curious and they actually want to incorporate spirituality and faith in the midst of therapy or therapeutic alignment because it produces potentially greater therapeutic outcomes. But then there's people that are afraid of potentially aligning those things when we know this, that faith has a significant impact, you talked about it, meaning and purpose on health, brain health, bodily health, relational health, so much more. Speak to just the faith factor here for a moment and how it potentially helps lead to the flourishing life.
So the question is, am I living in a way that honors God and the reason I'm on the planet? Am I living in a way? And I love that so much because it goes, you're created for a purpose to help make the world a better place. And in the center of faith, it's admitting I am a child of God. And I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I love that. And as I ask my patients, so why are you on the planet? Many of them have never thought about that.
Yeah.
If you think about that, if it's all about you, it's sort of depressing.
Yeah.
And I've seen some of the world's most famous people that have hundreds of millions of followers.
Yeah.
And when it's all about them, do you know what they say? And they all have the same thought. It's, I think of it as the mother toxic thought. It's, I'm not enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so if Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus and go, I'm not enough. And I looked at Miley, I'm like, so who would be enough?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, how does that happen? And it's this craziness of constant comparison to other people.
We need to be reminded of who we are because ultimately of whose we are, right? That the Creator created us in the likeness of His image so that we might have a relationship with God, so that we might then understand the meaning and purpose of life. And as my pastor likes to say, alludes right to what you were saying, Doc, that if it's all about you, it's all about over. And so the recognition that we need people, we need relationships now more than ever. Dr. Amen, what can our audience be doing to potentially get plugged in to the Amen Whole 4 program, the plan, just the different solutions that you talked about? Where can they find out more about you? Because again, I know that our audience is very committed to the process of health, and I know they love you with an overwhelming sense of that word. So where can they find out more?
Well, and just one more thought.
Yes.
I am here for a purpose, but my work isn't getting me into heaven.
That's right.
That it's my connection with Jesus that is getting me into heaven. So stop having to work so hard. I think that is so important to hold on to how we are saved is our belief in Jesus. It's not our belief in our ability to do more.
Amen.
But we want to do more.
That's right.
Because we're here for a purpose.
That's right.
But that's not the ticket. I think that's comforting for the doers like me. It's like, do more.
That's right. That's right.
And it's like, I do more because I love more, not because if I don't do more, bad things are going to happen. I think that's it.
Absolutely.
So people can learn about the Amen Whole 4, Amen Whole 4, HOLE, WHOLE, -4.com, and can follow me on Instagram, TikTok of all places.
Doc, You're a blessing. Again, thank you for just your wealth of wisdom, knowledge, experience. Thanks for even clarifying there for some of our audience that the beautiful thing about Christianity and what we believe about our God, the truth about our God, is that he doesn't make us climb the ladder. We don't have to work our way to heaven, but that he loved us so much that he sent his son descending that ladder for us to meet us in the midst of our depravity, in the midst of our humanity, so that way we wouldn't be defined by our scars, but we're defined by his. And that's a beautiful thing when we recognize that. It brings that sense of healing, and it makes us want to pursue the healthy life, because then we have a mission, we have a purpose, and I want to be here for as long as God would have me to fulfill that very thing. So Dr. Daniel Amen, on behalf of my dad, Dr. Tim Clinton, myself, AACC, our whole family here, we love you, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Zach.
To our entire audience at Build Different, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope and pray that you would take some of those practical tips and strategies that Dr. Amen gave us, and that you would begin to apply them and integrate them into your life, because you were made to live a healthy life. Your body, your mind, your soul, your brain, all of those things matter. Why? Because you matter, and you have an incredible purpose right here, right now. Thank you for joining us. We love being a part of your life.